Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Colden Company's video on Microsoft Copilot. So before we get too far, I want to tell you a little bit about Colden Company. Colden Company is a managed services provider, meaning we are an IT and data security company, and we've been in business for 22 years now. We're located in St. Augustine, Florida, which is where I'm talking to you from today, as well as Ballston Spa, New York, and Jonesville, Michigan. Our customer footprint extends into 17 different states, and we hold many leading technical certifications. And pertinent for today's video is that we are a Microsoft partner. We're also proud of the fact that we're now 5-time winners of the MSP 501 award, which is just some independent validation of our business practices. Okay, that's enough about us. Let's get to our agenda for the day. Okay, we're going to talk about what is Copilot, make sure we all have the same foundational knowledge of what it is. We'll talk about the different versions of Copilot. Like everything Microsoft, it's not just one thing, there's many different things. Then we're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about the Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription, and specifically the personal assistance that you get along with it. And we'll get into the personal assistance for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Outlook. So that's where we're going to spend the bulk of our time here. Okay, so let's get into what is Copilot. And it is, of course, Microsoft's artificial intelligence engine. And you're probably seeing it everywhere. Microsoft has not been shy about pushing it. If you log into office.com, there's going to be a pop-up there asking if you want to try Copilot. Even if you go to their main site at Microsoft.com, that's their main page. It's all about Copilot. Copilot, Copilot, Copilot. It's everywhere. Even the newest Microsoft Surface devices are going to have a Copilot key on their keyboard. All right, so Microsoft is making a pretty big deal about Copilot. So what's all the fuss? Is it something that you should be looking into for your business? And hopefully we'll answer that question here today for you. So it is important to note that Copilot is not just a single product. There is a free version of Copilot, which is available at copilot.microsoft.com, as well as several subscription options. So the website that I just mentioned is their generative AI engine, much like ChatGPT. In fact, it's built on the same OpenAI platform that ChatGPT is built on. And the premise is very much the same as ChatGPT. You enter information and Copilot generates a response. So we recommend signing into the Copilot site to have the best experience. There are some security ramifications for this, which we'll touch on later, but logging in is going to allow you to save your prompts or your queries and have a nice history of your interactions for ease of use. So what we want to do now is show you some of that. So I'm going to actually pull up the Copilot site here. Now, first of all, what I want you to notice is down in the lower left corner, I am logged in. So we do recommend that when you come in here, if you're not logged in, you'll have an option to sign in there. And because of the fact that I'm logged in, you're going to get to see a lot of my different chat history or prompt history on the right-hand side here. And you can select any one of those to return to that same conversation. You can also save queries for repeat use. Down here where you would type your prompt, right above there, you see this little icon here. If I click that, I can view my saved prompts. I'm going to click on your prompts here. And you can see one that I've got saved. Show me the latest data security news of the day. I'm going to go ahead and select that. That's something that I do on a regular basis, trying to keep up with data security as part of my business here. So I've saved that prompt and run it pretty much every day just to see what kind of news I'm going to get. Now, if you come up here, you can see I've got it saved already, but if the prompt wasn't saved, you could click that little save icon there and that would save it for you. And that's how you actually get those to stay. Okay, now it's good practice to keep your prompt topics separated so you're not switching topics on Copilot and confusing it. And the way you do that is up here, you're going to click New Chat. If I'm done, got my security news for the day, and I want to ask it something else, you want to click New Chat. Otherwise, it's going to think that your question or prompt is related to the previous topic. So that's just some good Copilot hygiene here, is to make sure you're starting fresh. Okay, so anyway, also notice up here we've got Work Web Toggle button here. Copilot can be configured to be locked down to only search your work data repository. And this can be a benefit to finding company information much more quickly and have targeted responses. But for general queries, you want to make sure that the website is selected so that Copilot can scour the internet for your answers. So some other important points before we move on is that Copilot can actually create images for you. And I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to ask it to create a data security superhero image. And of course, that's what all of us data security people see ourselves as. And we'll see what it gets. So I've got this query saved here from before. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And one important point is it does take some time to generate some images here. So it may take 10 or 15 seconds or more to generate the image. Now, here we go. It gives you 4 to choose from. If I don't like it, I could simply say to Copilot, give me some other images, and it'll go ahead and make some more. But here we go. I like this one in the upper corner here. Hope you like it as well. It's definitely how I see myself. You can also have Copilot create videos or even songs if you like. So there's a lot you can do here. One final important note before we move on to the subscription products here. And as a data security professional, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss this. You want to be very careful what you enter into AI sites like ChatGPT and Grok. They will ingest your text and make it part of their data repository that can be searched by others. So you never want to put sensitive company information into these models. Now, Copilot is a little bit different in that it will not ingest your data if you are logged in with an appropriate business account. If you're going to copilot.microsoft.com, not logging in, or just using a personal account, it too will ingest your data. So that is worth noting here. All right, so let's move on to our subscription options here. Okay, so we've just talked about the free Copilot. There's also something called Copilot Plus. And that's the equivalent to the paid subscription of ChatGPT. Gives you access to a newer engine, faster response time, and better image creation tools. The image creation, as I mentioned, can take 15, 20 seconds or so, be a little bit faster with the paid subscription. There's also Copilot Pro, which is a subscription similar to the Copilot for Microsoft 365, but for personal accounts. There's a more advanced option called Copilot Studio, but the one we want to spend our time on is the Copilot for Microsoft 65. And one of the main benefits of this particular subscription is what are called the personal assistants. There's a Copilot for PowerPoint. There's a Copilot for Outlook, and also a Copilot for many of the other 365 products. And these are essentially Copilot agents that work best in conjunction with the particular Microsoft application in question. So what we're going to do here, we're going to start with Microsoft Word. Start simply here. And I'm going to go ahead and open a Microsoft document here. Okay. Now, the first thing you want to notice is this Copilot button on the ribbon. That is only there if you have the paid subscription, which I obviously do. I put some text in here already, but I'm going to go ahead and click Copilot button so that it will go ahead and give me some options. It's going to make some suggestions on things that you can do. But one little trick is that you want to make your prompts as specific as possible. the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right? You want to be as specific as possible to Copilot to get the best possible results from your prompt. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and give a prompt here, and I'm going to ask it to create a social media post for me. But I'm going to be specific. I'm going to say, generate a 3-sentence social media post about why businesses should use Copilot. I'll go ahead and enter that one here. You can see it comes back with that pretty quickly. Now, it will give you some suggestions. Do I want to add more to it? Do I want to provide a shorter version? But if I like it, it's as simple as clicking the insert button, and that will insert that into my document here. I can regenerate it if I don't like it. You can tell it whether you like it or not. And of course, this button here would be a refresh here to get you something else. But I'm going to go ahead and insert this because I like that. Now, another point here is Copilot is not very good about creating images. So if I were to click here and say, generate an image for Copilot, it's not going to be very successful at that. And that's one of the things I've learned. It's going to put a sentence here. That's not what I wanted. I wanted an image. So I'm just going to delete that and say, no, I don't want to keep that. One little trick that I've learned, trick of the trade here, is come over to the Copilot agent over here and ask it over here. Generate an image for Copilot. Now, once I put that in over here, you can see that the designer has come up and it's actually looking to create an image, whereas when I did it in the document itself, it tried to put some kind of text document together here. So I'm going to let that continue to try to build that, that image for me over on the side and continue on here. Because as I said, it could take some time. Well, there we go. It generated some images. You can choose the one that you want and insert that in if you like. Another trick when using Copilot for Word is ensure that if you're asking it to rewrite text, make sure that Copilot knows what text you're talking about. If I were to just say, hey, rewrite this text, it's going to look at the entire document. So if I just want to rewrite this paragraph here, I'm going to highlight it, then click Rewrite with Copilot. And it'll go ahead and give me an option here to rewrite it. And I can decide if I want to replace my text with that or what I want to do here. So in this case, I'm not going to accept those changes. And it actually gives me 3 rewrites here, 1, 2, 3. So you can choose any one of those 3. But that's very valuable, especially folks that are using, are in marketing. Copilot can be great to give you some readable, usable text. Okay. So I'm going to break out of there and move on to PowerPoint. And that's going to be our next product here. The biggest use I've found so far for Copilot is in creating a PowerPoint presentation from a bulleted list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open PowerPoint here. You can see I've got a blank presentation here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Copilot on the right side here. And I'm going to ask it to create a presentation. And it's going to give me some files. And what I've done is I've already got a bullet list put together in Word. So I'm going to say, use that file and create a PowerPoint presentation for me based off of that bullet list. Now, I actually used this for a presentation I had to give earlier this year. I had a fairly detailed bulleted list of things to talk about and just had Copilot create the actual presentation. Now you can see it's created a pretty short presentation here for me based off that short list that I gave it. then you want to really get into the designer view. Now, the designer view is not a specific Copilot product here, but it allows you to pretty up your slides. So I'm going to maybe change the look and feel, because by default, it gave me a pretty blank and pretty generic slide. So I can go ahead and choose all the different backgrounds that I want if I want to keep with that kind of theme here, and select all the ones that I want. So you're going to have to do some work. It's not going to get your PowerPoint 100%, but it can be a real time saver, especially if you build out your bullet list with all the pertinent points here. Okay, so that's the big benefit that we see in PowerPoint. Let's move on to Excel here. I'm going to bring up an Excel sheet here. So the first point that I want to make is going to sound like I'm not really high on Copilot for Excel. But most of what Copilot can do for you is stuff you can already do for yourself in Excel already. But the real value is you don't have to figure out how to do it yourself. You can just ask Copilot to do it. Now, a couple of things here that are really important points when talking about Copilot for Excel that you need to know. Number one is that your data must be in tables, and it must have headers for Copilot to really be of value. And your Excel sheets either need to be stored in some Microsoft 365 application like SharePoint or Teams or OneDrive, or it needs to have autosave, which you can see up in the upper corner here, turned on. Or else Copilot isn't going to be able to work for you. So let's look at this here. So right now my data is not in table format here. So the first thing I need to do is actually convert it to table format. So I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do that. Highlight your data and Control T, boom, puts your data into table format. Now I can get the advantages and benefits of Copilot here. So before I show you this, what is one of the most valuable things that Excel can do to analyze data? Creating pivot tables, right? But not everybody knows how to build and work with pivot tables. Copilot creates them for you and does it even when you don't ask it to sometimes, because it knows how valuable those pivot tables can be. All right, so let's go ahead and open Copilot here. And what I want to do is I'm going to ask Copilot to give me a pie chart of all of the products that we have that are in our Florida office. So I'm going to write that in here and say, create a pie chart of how many inventory items are in Florida. And it's going to go ahead and work on that. It's going to analyze my data. You can see it's telling you which cells it's actively working on if that number is not correct. And you can see here, you would add that. So that is showing the vast majority of my, it didn't give me the correct answer there. So that's the art of getting your prompt correctly here. Okay. Create a pie chart showing inventory items in the Florida office. So I'm going to just give it a little bit more detail there. See if it does any better. And it did. So I just was specific about Florida office as opposed to just Florida. So I'm going to add this pie chart in here, and it's going to create another sheet. You can see it's telling me how many 3D printers we have, how many fire extinguishers we have in this location, and it built out a nice pivot table for me. If I click into here, you can see I've got all my pivot table fields here as well. And that is very handy. All right, we can also do things like conditional formatting. Let's say I want items that I am responsible for to stand out. I'm going to go ahead and ask Copilot to do that. I'm going to say highlight all lines where J Lapointe is the responsible party. Now, I could have done this using the conditional formatting menu, but why not have a Copilot just do it for you? So you can see here, it's telling you what it's going to do. It's going to go ahead and highlight it in yellow. That's fine by me. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And you can see it went ahead and applied the conditional formatting for me. Everything that I'm responsible for is now highlighted in yellow. Okay. So I didn't have to navigate to that conditional formatting menu and figure it out. Now, conditional formatting is not the most complex thing in the world, but some formulas are, right? So having Copilot figure out the formulas for you can really be a saver here. So I'm going to click over here on a cell, and I'm going to say, create a sum formula. So I'm giving it some needed data, what kind of formula, to add up all the inventory items that J Lapointe is responsible for. I'll go ahead and submit that. What it's going to do, it's going to, excuse me, generate that formula for us here. And there we go. So I could go ahead and just insert that, and you can see 7,610, which does add up, right? Or it gives you the nice ability to copy that formula. If you want to reuse that formula somewhere else, it's got the actual formula there that you can copy and paste anywhere that you want. So there's a lot that you can do with Copilot, including advanced analytics using Python for some of you advanced Excel power users. We're not going to cover that today in this high-level overview, but we wanted to touch on some of those nice points. Okay, now the last one we're going to touch on is Outlook and talk about the Copilot for Outlook. A caveat before we start here. You need to be using the new Outlook interface in order to get the most benefits out of Copilot, or be using Outlook on the web. So how do you know? If you come over into your Outlook and look in the upper right, it's either going to say try the new Outlook or show that you're using the new Outlook. If you're not using the new Outlook, like I said, you're not going to have the Copilot button in the ribbon, and it's not going to give you as much benefit here. Okay. But once you're in the new version, you will have the Copilot icon in the top ribbon, and you'll be able to prompt for answers to your questions here. One handy one that I found is ask it if I have any unread email that requires a response. It's pretty good when you're on vacation, right? And here it is. It summarized my email and say, hey, you got a couple things to follow up on. So that's kind of a handy feature that it has. Now, without prompting, it's going to give you some suggestions. So just clicking on the ribbon or the button in the ribbon, it's going to ask you if you want to schedule a meeting. Do you want to find a particular email, summarize an email? So it's going to give you some suggestions on things that you want to do here. So I'm not showing my actual Outlook here because it's obviously got my private email in there, but I wanted to show you some slides of things that you can do here. Now, finally, there is an option that you can use that's within an actual email, and that is to summarize an email. So here's how that's going to look. You're going to see Summary by Copilot here up in the top here. You would click that, and if you've got a long email, it'll break it down into a much shorter 2 or 3 sentence summary of what that email actually entails. I don't trust that, to be honest. But when I have long vendor emails, like something like this, then I use it. But if it's an email from a client or something like that, I want to see the whole email. So I'm not necessarily trusting Copilot's summary for everything. Copilot is not perfect. It can make some mistakes here. Okay, so let's summarize things here. We barely scratched the surface of what can be done with Microsoft Copilot. There's so many more examples of what we can do, but I hope that I piqued your interest a little bit today, provided some value and maybe some helpful hints as well. I'm going to put up our contact information on the screen here, so you've got that while I wrap up here. So I like to tell people that artificial intelligence is really a game changer, but it's a game changer both good and bad. Bad guys can use AI as well, and they are certainly already hard at work at it. The bad side is going to affect you whether you want to or not, right? They're using it to write malware. They're using it for nefarious purposes. You're not going to be able to avoid that. So you might as well lean into the good side of AI and take advantage of all that it has to offer, because it does have a good side as well. I'm going to leave you with 2 last thoughts here. The average person only has to save about 1 hour and 15 minutes per month of time using Copilot to make that subscription pay for itself. The more it's used, the more uses people will find for it. If you're a business owner or a manager watching today, give this tool to your power users first. That's going to help them to be even more productive. These folks will drive the adoption in your organization. If you're an employee, ask for a Copilot license and use it. That will make yourself a very valuable person within your organization and get you ahead of the curve. Then I'll leave you with one last point here, and that's a statistic from the Harvard Business Review. And that is that businesses that embrace technology outperform those that do not. Does anyone doubt that to be true? I certainly do not. So let us know how we can help you with your AI journey and your Copilot journey. We really appreciate you watching today and hope that you got some value here.